Good evening and a happy Socialist Sunday to everybody watching. I'm your humble host Lefty. This is the Sunday live stream on my left eye. Solidarity everybody, thanks for joining us as we close the week off. Hope you've had a good one. Doc Davies first in the chat. Nice to see you as always, Doc. Hope you're having a good weekend. So welcome one and all, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, there, thems and comrades alike. Quite a ram-packed stream we've got this evening for those of you who like your long fix. You're going to get it, that's for sure. And in fact, I will kick off immediately with a customary thank you to all of the members on the channel. 126 now, towards the target of 250. Thanks to everybody who's renewed their own memberships and gifted to others recently. Please do press a whole heap of relative buttons to support the channel. Thumbs up on this stream. You can open up some other content, hit thumbs up there, and if you're watching on a mobile device, you can contribute some hype points as well. They're completely free, by the way. Super chat is open as well as super stickers if you're watching live, if you're live with us in the action, or if you're catching up later on, there's always the super thanks as well, and the Buy Me a Coffee page. You can find the link for the Buy Me a Coffee page in the description of any content on the channel. Do check that out. We need to stay caffeinated. Ed, lovely to see you as always, comrade. There is no poll on this stream, but plenty of other things to get into. As is customary, on Sundays we will be going through what's coming up when we gatecrash the party at Keith's Fondue Lounge, which might be one of the final parties that he has. As for channel updates, what do I have since we were last with you? Just a few days ago on stream. The third incarnation, or iteration, if you prefer, of the Postman Twat introduction video didn't quite cut it, if you know what I mean. Long-term viewers. That is for one of our other features on our weekday streams. But fret you not. We'll try again. Thanks to Harvey Ranger and the Supersonics, of course, the resident background jazz quartet. Do take it away, gentlemen. Here with us every Sunday, providing some soothing background jazz tones. Me again, nice to see you again. We'll be having a fantastic Socialist Sunday.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
We will be going into the lounge. Just a quick moment, just got a couple of technical bits here. More of a rushed start than usual on Sundays, Sunday chill stream. But a week's a long time in politics, isn't it, people? Yeah, tons going on. I think we've managed to collate it together well. With some classic segues in there as well. Let's see what's happening. Are you all ready for the first portion of fondue? Let's dive into the lounge. Nina Sadie, nice to see you've joined at just the right time, as has Mr. Jared. Grab a bowl, grab a spoon, grab something to dip into the liquid cheese as we go once again into Keith's Fondue Lounge.
It's a quality item, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we are once again in the Fondue Lounge. Shout out to the Agitator for providing this scene, as always. Mr. Jared with 3 adverts to get onto the stream. Sorry about that, it's kind of out of our hands. That is to say, we are able to decide whether there are adverts if you're watching live or not, and we do not have them, so you're watching live. That will be the only advertisement you'll see. Except, of course, right at the end, because we know that you're going to stick with us all the way through. But if you're watching back later on, yes, there will be ads. Not too intrusive, I hope. Do keep us informed. We like to think that we're fair, you know, we're not... That is to say, there are many times live when the studio, YouTube studio itself, suggests to stick in adverts. For example, when we get a raid, that sort of thing. And we say no, because we stick to the principle of no adverts during live streams. But they should have been skippable. I hope they were anyway. Specs, nice to see you. Solidarity. Okay, so what is actually coming up? Yapping away. You dig into your fondue, people. I'll keep you posted. We'll be kicking off with some comedy, of course, to get our spirits high before we go into the political mire that awaits us. Starting with Nicola Sturgeon's first official interview in response to her husband, her now estranged husband, having pled guilty to embezzling funds from the Scottish National Party. Sturgeon has upheld that she played no part in this, in fact wasn't aware of it, was completely saddened and shocked by the revelations themselves. She'll go into that, I guess, as we go through the interview. So she'll be interviewed by her compatriot, Laura Kussenberg. Well, we'll see. It'd be a first time viewing for me, actually. Do always like to do that with content on the channel for a genuine first time reaction. We'll also have the latest on the by-election in Makerfield, which is of course a hot seat on the channel. So another episode of Hot Seats awaits us. Let's just quickly see what will be coming up with that. Of course, there's been this very, I say controversial, but I'm stunned and somewhat angered by the statement from Caroline Lucas, which apparently seems to betray her own party in advocating for Andy Burnham in the Makerfield by-election. Also got a bit more of an update on the Reform candidate Robert Kenyon, who found himself stumped during an interview with the Manchester Evening News, of course. This stream coming to you from Manchester, this evening. You're going to probably get a few plugs actually for town. There's been a sensational reaction as well on TV, on one of the panel shows, to the fact that he's allowed to stand at all, considering what we've already said about him is open and rampant misogyny, racism, the associations with literal fascists, and so on and so forth. Also, for the first time, we're going to be hearing from the Green Party candidate themselves, Sarah Wakefield, who did an interview with BBC Radio Manchester recently, so we're going to check that one out as well. And new candidates who we didn't reveal exclusively, but we brought it up on the last stream. Of course, now sensationally, Count Binhead or Binface, whatever, has thrown his hat into the ring in Makerfield. So a bit of an update on that. What else do we have? Because it is a ram-packed show. As I said, a few other bits and pieces, including Pat McFadden, yes, of course, the life and soul of the party himself, was on Trevor Phillips trying to defend Labour's, well, lack of following up on their manifesto pledges. Shock, horror, go fetch the smelling salts. Yes, apparently they haven't been doing that. And this is on youth wages specifically. We're also going to take a look at a little bit of an interview from Zach Polanski's Bold Politics. He actually interviewed the Spanish Minister for Culture, Ernest Arteson, as well, and that will kind of segue us into Gaza and Palestine via a bit of an update on the Filton trial, of course, with Pal Action. That trial has been hitting the headlines for some time now, and is of course intertwined into the ongoing protests being carried out by Defend Our Juries as well, which we've been again covering for a while now on the channel, plus whole heaps more. My goodness, are you going to be able to digest all of that, as well as the fondue? I hope it's fresh fondue and they don't just serve leftovers. But this is Keir Starmer we're talking about, so you can't rule anything out. Right, we'll be back in the lounge later on, but that's all for now. Jim and Graham just joining us. Nice to see you both. Happy Socialist Sunday, comrades. Well, as I said, we do have a plethora of items to get through. So let's start with a little bit of comedy.
Socialists.
We've got, I think, someone who I've only featured once before. Or we've only featured once before on stream. But one of many people doing a great variety of impressions of current US presidents, Donald Adult Diaper Trump. And this is a pretty good one. This is Dank Cube. There's a link in the description. Go and subscribe. I recommend checking out more of this stuff as well. So this is from the point of view if Donald Trump was Dank Cube's therapist I really enjoyed this one, so I hope you will too. Go and check them out.
Your mental health is improving tremendously. We're doing a great job.
It hasn't improved at all,
No,
not even a little bit.
excuse me. We're doing a great job. Okay, if you look at the numbers, we're winning big. And your mental health is way better than it was with Kamala.
Also, watching the news makes me feel anxious
Fake
sometimes.
news. Are you a Democrat? You vote Democrat?
No, I don't really vote.
Wow, what a loser. Don't even talk to me. You're a loser. Wow. Are you a loser? Do you feel like a loser?
Sometimes.
You know, my son
you
is
know?
the same age, and he's not a loser like you, you know? You're a loser. How was your childhood? Was it good? Did you have a good childhood growing up?
Well, I grew up. I grew up kind of. You know, it was a bit of an abusive household, to be honest. You know, this is kind of a crazy story, but my mom and dad would actually jump me.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Go ahead.
Yeah, so like I was saying, that my mom and, I would get jumped at school, and then when I go back home, I would get jumped again by my mom and dad. And I could never feel safe anywhere.
Both your parents beat you. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. You know, you must have been a terrible child. My parents, they never beat me because I was a good boy. Frankly, I'm still a good boy.
Got fired from my job recently. You know, financially, I've been a little stressed.
When I was your age, I had problems, you know, problems with money. And I would go to my dad and I would say, Dad, you got to give me $1 million. You know, you got to do it. And it worked. You know, it was incredible. It was tremendous. And I think, you should do that. I said no pickles on mine, Junior, okay? I don't like pickles. Melania likes them. Okay. You too, Junior. You too. I love you too.
Yeah, I just got laid off, so it's I'm already 2 months behind on rent, so I feel like I'm gonna go.
You know
crazy.
what your problem is? You want me to tell you what your problem is?
Yeah.
Here's your problem. Somalia.
Huh?
Take a look at this. You're gonna like it. You're gonna love it. I did it for you.
There were people in there?
There was a family in there, you know, and we blew them up. We blew them to hell. Isn't that amazing? Don't you like
You
that?
did that? Why'd you... Wait, how does any of this help my mental health?
Is that what you said? You didn't say that. I thought you said you wanted to blow up Iran.
That's not what I'm paying you to do.
What a nasty thing to say. And you're a nasty person. Did you know that? Anybody ever told you that? You're a nasty person. And you look like a dog. And frankly, you look like an ugly dog. You're an ugly...
Dank Cube. Link in the description. Please check him out. Graham, sorry to hear about that earlier with the flags. But don't you worry. Believe me, certain plans are in motion to perhaps remedy this flag nuisance that we've been seeing of late. More details on that to come. I'd prescribe them though. Certainly they deserve prescribing more than pal action or... yeah. Right, yeah, we're going to kick off with the Sturgeon interview. This was on Laura Kussenberg earlier today. I've not... So I'm supposed to put this in, but there you go. Yes, that Laura Kussenberg there. And you probably heard the story, yes, of course, embezzlement of funds over £400,000 worth for a variety of luxury items. Sturgeon is claiming plausible deniability, that this was kept from her, so on and so forth. We'll see what kind of questions she gets from fellow Scott Kussenberg, who I don't particularly rate as a journalist. Long-term viewers will certainly know. But more importantly, let's see how convincing Sturgeon herself is that she wasn't complicit in this and had no knowledge of it whatsoever. Okay, people.
Scandal, sorrow and behaviour you might not believe. Many people were stunned this week by the news that the former boss of the SNP stole hundreds of thousands of pounds from the party, which he spent on a weird mix of things. Coffee machines worth thousands of pounds, even toilet seats, makeup, and that now notorious motorhome. And of course, Peter Murrell just happened to be Nicola Sturgeon's husband. The former First Minister, once a political star whose time in office ended with profound embarrassment and questions that have persisted about what she knew and how it could all have happened. Murrell pled guilty at the start of this week, but yesterday, for the first time since this saga all began, Nicola Sturgeon agreed to give her side of what's not just a story, but one of the biggest political scandals of recent times.
Nicola Sturgeon!
Nicola Sturgeon wasn't just the First Minister of Scotland and leader of the SNP. She was half of a political power couple. Her husband, Peter Murrell, was the party's chief executive. But in 2021, party officials started to ask questions about where cash raised by party members to fight for independence had gone. The SNP and Sturgeon denied anything had gone wrong. But soon, the police started to look into the finances. In 2023, Sturgeon, Murrell and the party treasurer were all arrested. Their house was searched, but only Murrell was charged.
How are you going to plead, Mr. Murrell?
Yeah, that was the thing at the time. We remember it was sort of, you'd think there would have been a multiple murder in the house, the way that there were sort of screens and there's stuff going on the press as well, as I guess the authorities really sort of came down heavy on this one with the optics.
This week, admitting he'd embezzled £400,000. So what did she know? And why on earth did it go so wrong? Everyone in the country is asking. Peter Murrell, your husband for many years, pled guilty to stealing £400,000 from the party that you led for many years. You've said you didn't know anything, but as the person who shared his life, as his wife, did you really not notice anything?
I absolutely didn't know that he was committing crimes. Look, I understand that question. It's human nature. If I was on the outside looking in on this happening to somebody else, it's very probably a question I would be asking too. You know, I think that question, though, is based on a lot of assumptions that are perhaps understandable, but are completely wrong. The first assumption is that I knew about all of the things that he was purchasing. There's a lot of the items that have been mentioned in the court documents and therefore by extension in the press that I wasn't aware of. Some of
Well, things like the motorhome, you're not going to be able to. It's just what's this on the drive? Is one of them, and we'll watch the interview through. But just trying to picture multiple scenarios. Let's hypothesize that Sturgeon didn't know, and it's like, what's going on with the motorhome? And all he says is, Oh, I got it on. I got it on finance. He got it on tick, on credits. Well, I don't know. But there must have been some excuses given the prolific spending. She must have noticed, and I've seen a picture going around social media of her actually doing an interview in her kitchen, I think it was, while she's using this expensive coffee making machine that's being referred to. And you can help keep us going with coffee, of course, on My Left Eye with the Buy Me a Coffee page link, which is in the description of any content on the channel. Smooth.
The items I was aware of, including things he bought for me as gifts and presented to me as gifts that he had bought for me. None of these things I would have looked at and thought, how on earth could he afford them? We were two people on...
Well, yeah. Like... well, sorry. She must have been stunned by some of them. And I'm still not certain as to whether she did or didn't know about these things. I might be leaning one particular way, which I won't disclose at the moment. But with gifts, like she's about to describe here, what's the natural reaction when you see something so extravagant? You're immediately going to question it, aren't you?
Fuck off.
Salaries. We don't have children. We didn't have, an extensive social life, mainly because of the pressures of my job. We very rarely went on holiday. So we had incomes that would, as far as I could see, would have supported anything that I was seeing in my house. I think the other thing, which...
Oh, because we're both fucking loaded.
It's just a fact of life. I was the First Minister of the country. I was working round the clock most days. I wasn't at home very often. I didn't take much, if anything, to do with the administration of our household. I mean, just to explain how our finances work, we had separate bank accounts. I never had any access to his bank account. He didn't have any to mine. Every month I would pass him a sum of money to cover my share of the household expenses and leave him to it.
But this was much more than the odd thing here or there or routine household items. Some of them were very basic. He even spent a few pounds on new toilet seats or a onesie. But he spent thousands of pounds on watches.
What sort of... Does she mean like the all-in-one... Basically, it's like a child's romper suit for adults. Yeah, they've been around for a while now. A onesie, one of those. Ridiculous. How expensive are they? Toilet seats? What sort of a toilet seat? Yeah, it said signed by Mahatma Gandhi and Genghis Khan. Very expensive.
Thousands of pounds on pens, some of...
And yes, I'm aware that the Mongolians didn't have a reading or writing culture, in case there are any particularly, what's the word I'm looking for, anal historians watching the stream.
Which you were pictured using. Expensive handbags as gifts for you. Thousands of pounds on several coffee machines.
Oh.
These were a whole series of items that were far out of reach of the normal family.
We weren't a normal family. I was the First Minister of the country. Expensive watches. I never saw those watches. I until they were asked about in the context of a criminal investigation, I didn't know they existed. You mentioned...
I don't even know what time is.
A onesie. Never ever saw it. A coffee machine. We had a nice coffee machine in our house. We were on salaries that would not have made me question how we could have afforded a decent coffee.
Okay, you can, the coffee machine, they are both on large salaries, let's be honest, for some of these things. I'm still trying to keep it realistic where things like motorhomes are concerned. And whether you have separate bank accounts or not, usually couples consult each other, don't they, over purchase of large items or, in some cases there were gifts, but don't know what the context was for the motorhome specifically, but you would normally turn around to your partner and say, considering getting this motorhome, what do you think? Or, we could look at all the amazing things we could do with the motorhome, with all of the time that we have to go around the country. That Nicola Sturgeon's explaining that they don't have.
Coffee machine.
And a lot of people might think, okay, it's not that unusual in a relationship.
Pedantic was more the word I was looking for, Ed. But yes, of course, I'm a lover of history myself. Not knocking historians at all. Absolutely. Not just wanting to make the citation in real time, I guess.
The one person does the bills, one person looks after the money, and absolutely, you were very busy. But he bought a Jaguar car.
A Jaguar?
Worth more than £80,000.
A Jaguar? So it's like an F-Type, E-Type, one of these, 90 grand's worth of Jaguar. So there's a motorhome on the driveway when you get back one day, and a Jaguar another time. You don't. I mean, that's going on a year's salary, 90,000. Even though you both, as I said, on upper incomes, 90 grand is still a pretty big chunk of change.
That sat in your driveway.
But
did you never have
again,
a conversation
Laura,
about where you got the money for?
I didn't drive. I had no interest in cars.
So you can't see. I can't see them. I've no interest in them. Car. What is? It's just this empty driveway out there. I can't see cars because I don't drive. I really hope that isn't what she's trying to say. I will be honest. She did a lot of good for the SNP. I support the SNP. She took over from Alex Salmond, of course, who stepped down because of health problems. He had, unfortunately, problems with alcohol abuse. And then, Nicola Sturgeon led the SNP for a very long time. Unfortunately, Labour managed to convince enough people to lend them their votes at the last general election, but we at My Left Eye fully support Scottish independence, as we do Welsh independence, and it would really be shocking and saddening if it turns out that it wasn't just her husband that was involved in this, that she doesn't have plausible deniability. But let's see, we might get some more clues through the interview. This should really be a My Left Private Eye piece, I guess, seeing as we're trying to investigate and work out what's going on. But hindsight's fantastic where politics is concerned, isn't it, people?
Bought a Jaguar. He wanted to change to an electric car. He told me that the range on the Jaguar was one that he thought was good, and I know a Jaguar is an expensive car, but we were on high salaries. If he had been, I don't want to be flippant about this, but if he'd been, bringing Tiffany diamonds into the house or something, but there was nothing that I saw, there's been, in some of this, if it wasn't so awful. And
I was too busy tucking into my roast pheasant and,
so serious. And I have seen people laughing about it. A pepper grinder worth £2,000. Now,
bag for a fucking paper grinder? What? Like a shredder? A shredding machine? That'd have to, you could probably get a few industrial type ones for that sort of money. Like £2,000. And, what's being shredded? Seems to be a lot of shredding going on in the house. That's always a nefarious sign, isn't it? Of course, there are always legitimate reasons, of course. But £2,000.
I genuinely don't know whether that is the pepper grinder that I was using in my house, but I also am genuinely not sure how
pepper grinder.
I was meant to know it.
Pepper, like salt and pepper grinder. That's fucking even worse. Fuck me, £2,000 for a pepper grinder. Sorry, it's the accents. A fucking pepper grinder.
There's been, and some of this, if it wasn't so awful and so serious.
Really?
And I have.
Like, table pepper. Like how, you know, sometimes you might see in a restaurant, they come along with a huge bastard fucking grind, you know, and the hand's way back there. I'm trying to illustrate it here, you can't see because there's no cam. But, yeah, £2,000. What's it made out of? What, diamond encrusted with rubies, emeralds from the furthest lands in the empire. What? It's been bequeathed for the last 10 generations. What the, you know, you just want a little bit of seasoning on your plate. Extravagance really, yeah, frustrates me a lot. I guess you could understand that as socialists. But yeah, some of the things that you hear just outright revolting. £2,000 for something that holds seasoning.
I've seen people laughing about it. You know, a pepper grinder worth £2,000. Now,
Pepper.
I genuinely don't know
No, I actually wish it was paper shredders. Fucking hell.
whether that is the pepper grinder that I was using in my house, but I also am genuinely not sure how I was meant to know it cost that amount of money. Now, I have been deceived, I've been lied to, I've been betrayed, as it turns out, over a lengthy period of time, by somebody I thought I knew, by somebody I loved, by somebody I trusted and had never been given any reason until the last 3 years to think that I couldn't trust. And
Are you angry with him?
am I angry?
What a fucking... This is what 6-figure salary Laura Kussenberg gets you. Were you... So imagine, yeah, you've been betrayed, ripped off by your husband, of all people. Would that make you angry? Laura Kussenberg isn't really big on emotional intelligence, so really has to ask the question there just to confirm that is what a human, this is what the humans would feel. And did you feel this anger that I hear a lot about humans experiencing? Of fucking course, Laura. I mean, this isn't even like salon gossip level conversation with the questions, that is. This is supposed to be one of the top political presenters in the UK. So, did that make you cross?
With him. I don't even think that begins to cover it, because not only has he lied to me and betrayed me, and if this was an entirely private thing, that would be bad enough, but it's more than that. He has put me into a position of real peril. He has subjected me to public vilification, having the finger of suspicion pointed at me, you know, humiliation, allowed me to be seen on camera using things, wearing a piece of, now I can talk to you if you want about a particular piece of jewellery, because it deeply upsets me. I'm now in a position of even some of my birthday presents and Christmas presents have turned out to be a lie. And that's really difficult to come to terms with for anybody in private. But I'm doing this in the full glare of publicity, and I understand why. Because of his actions, I was subjected to a 2-year police investigation. I was exonerated. If there had been a...
Genie bottle, yeah. Pepper grinder, is that where peppers go to get spicy? Yeah, it's the gay dating app for peppers and paprika. Graham's putting his foot down. You are not buying a new pepper grinder. That's the decision in the household. Ogham the Bold, nice to see you. Yori Gibson's with us as well. Nina Sadie, yeah. You do have to assume that. She's got a suspicious face on now. Laura Kussenberg. Well, let's hear more through this. Of course, yeah, you'd be devastated to essentially that gifts that were given to you were stolen. They weren't sort of, oh, this is what I'm giving to you. No, some other, taxpayers or party members, whatever, funded it.
A shred of evidence that I had been complicit in this or had known about what he was doing, then I wouldn't have been cleared. But despite being cleared, I've still spent a week with having the finger of suspicion pointed at me. Yes, I'm angry, but I'm also carrying a degree of hurt and I think a degree of trauma about this whole episode. It resulted in me sitting in a police station under arrest. What he has done to me...
Yeah, I've no idea what that's like.
I think will take me a very, very long time to recover from.
Do you feel like you are...
Well, if you're not guilty, you don't have anything to worry about. Jesus, I've been in police stations than I can likely remember, but innocent or guilty, I think the sort of doing the it's all about me bit, and poor me, I had to go to a police station for a short amount of time. I think that is a bit crass, to be honest, at least.
A victim of his?
I'm a working class girl from the west of Scotland. I don't like victim terminology. I will never think of myself as a victim. The SNP is the victim in this crime.
Well, I was going to ask you about that necklace. You were pictured in that necklace on many, many occasions.
It was during the by-election in Shetland in 2019. I'd been campaigning a lot in Shetland, and we went to visit, as part of the campaign, we went to visit this amazing business, the Shetland Jewellers. And I was being shown around the shop, and I stopped at this pendant. I mean, you've seen pictures of it. It's beautiful. Later that night, Peter said to me, "I've got a surprise for you." And I saw you admiring this pendant and gave me it. Sorry. I loved that necklace and I wore it a lot. And
she's breaking down a bit now. This is the
other thing. The idea that I would have gone about wearing things that I had known were anything other than what they were presented to me as a gift from my husband, and to then find out that these were gifts given to me that he bought with the party's money, causes a level of, I don't know, pain, bewilderment. I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm going to try. I'm just not sure I will ever properly come to terms with that.
But for all that time, you weren't just his wife. You were also the leader of the organisation that he was stealing from. And there's one item in particular, a motorhome worth more than £100,000.
The motorhome. How much?
The organisation that he was stealing from. And there's one item in particular, a motorhome worth more than £100,000.
100,000, so 90 grand's worth of Jag, £100,000 worth of motorhome.
That motorhome was parked in your mother-in-law's drive for a long time, and yet you say you knew nothing about it. Did you visit your mother-in-law's house then in that period?
Less than a handful of times, probably.
So I'm going to walked past the motorhome.
I see you got the motorhome there. Aye.
No, I didn't. And this is the thing. My mother-in-law, or my mother and father-in-law's house, has a driveway in front of their house where we would park our car, and then we'd go into the house. Where the motorhome was round the side of the house, which is not immediately visible in the way that we went into the house. And it's between their house and the next door neighbour's house. Now, I genuinely don't have any conscious memory of seeing that motorhome. If I saw it, I probably would have assumed it was a neighbour's. My mother and father-in-law were in their mid-80s. I would have just not, it wouldn't have crossed my mind it was theirs, and it would never have, why would it have crossed?
Probably, journalists dashing to that location, or they might already have done for this particular point of view that she's referring to. So she goes there a handful of times, and essentially what this motorhome is hidden around the back of the house. And her in-laws make no mention of the fact that they've got a £100,000 motorhome on the driveway. That's the thing, isn't it? That nobody says anything about it.
It's my mind that it was the SNPs, that Peter had bought it.
Well, if you go to somebody's house, a family member, and there's a new vehicle parked in the drive, it's somewhere
But it
you go
wasn't.
regularly.
The thing
would
is,
be
it
a normal
wasn't.
thing to say, or even to say, has your neighbour got a new
It
motorhome?
wasn't
And it
parked
was
in-
never
Oh,
discussed.
they talk
Never.
about it themselves.
Ever? At
Never.
all?
I
That's more
genuinely
likely.
do not recall seeing it in a way that I registered it and thought, oh, there's a motorhome.
What did you think it was when you saw in the SNP's accounts in 2021 that shows clearly tens of thousands of pounds being spent on motor vehicles for a political party?
That didn't register with me in the accounts. I would quite like
remember
to take,
seeing it?
I don't remember seeing it. The National Treasurer didn't draw it to my attention.
You don't recall seeing it in the accounts?
No, I don't. As a member of the NEC, as all
you
of the
did
members of
look
the
carefully.
NEC, we would look at the National Treasurer would present them. The National Treasurer would, draw to our attention any items he thought we should pay particular attention to, and people in the NEC would ask questions. But no, I look back on this and think I wish I had sort of the thing about it. Wasn't from memory now that I've seen it. It doesn't say motorhome, it says motor vehicles. That could have been the rental of motor vehicles or something like that. So it didn't particularly jump out as something that caused me to question things.
Did you notice a drop in more than £300,000 in the party's accounts in 1 year?
The party's income goes up and down depending on whether it's an election year.
Come on,
It's
that's a
drop
lot
of
of...
£300,000.
I don't know what year you're talking about. so I'm not-
2019.
But that would have been income related. That would have been to do with the income in terms of
Who does your
donations.
books? Who does your frigging books? You? You just go over it? No, come on. Come on, I refuse to believe that. You have professionals who deal with this sort of thing. There are departments, of course, as well. The idea that you're going over it and your eyes scanning the page or the screen don't see the anomalies. It doesn't jump out to you because you don't see the words motorhome. It's motor vehicles, which you mix up with just general campaign vehicles, the sort with the speakers on the side going around on election days, on polling days, those sort of things. No, it's not like that. They would have been in front of multiple people's eyes. There would have been a lot of opportunities to spot these anomalies. The fact that we're supposed to picture Nicola Sturgeon hunched over her dining room table late at night doing the SNP finances, I think, is a little bit reaching.
Or the expenditure. Remember, we had snap elections during that point.
There's a bit of a clash though here, because as a fearsome politician, your reputation was for being completely fastidious across every detail. Some people actually even accused you of being a micromanager. But when it came to your party's accounts, well, it went up and down. You were looking, but you didn't notice things popping up in a big way.
That's always been the case. That is making
Nearly
it sound as if
£500,000.
there was something glaringly suspicious in the accounts that I should have seen and I didn't. The financial position of the party, like all parties, will ebb and flow and go up and down. Again, and I am, the National Treasurer of the party was deceived and misled as well.
But you were the boss.
But,
I mean, you were the leader and you had a responsibility as that.
These accounts that you're talking about were audited by, professional auditors, by qualified accountants. I then rely on
Were they?
a National Treasurer to say he's satisfied with accounts for them to be put forward to the National Executive Committee. So the idea, and I want to seriously challenge this, of course there will be ebbs and flows in the party's financial position, but the idea there was anything in the accounts that would have alerted me to what Peter pled guilty to on Monday is absolutely, fundamentally untrue. And if there had been, I suspect the police and the Crown Office might have reached a different position on me.
But people were trying to flag to you that there was something going on with
No,
the
they weren't.
finances. No, forgive me, let me ask you this question. 3 members of the Finance Committee had quit because they were worried about what was going on with the finances and unable to get the answers that they wanted. The treasurer of the party then quit because he was worried and not able to get answers about the finances. So people were trying to alert the party to concerns about financial goings-on.
I reject completely the notion that people were trying to alert the party to the...
Well, maybe it's not just Peter Murrell who's going to go down for this, because, yeah, I fail to see how, up and down the chain, that nobody noticed this, that nobody saw that this was going on. But let's hear more about this from apparently people who tried to raise it.
Kind of behaviour that Peter pled guilty to on Monday.
That's not my question. People were alerting you and the SNP, some of them publicly, to concerns they had about the party's finances.
The concerns, but I want to talk
what did
specifically.
you do about that? Did you do anything about that as the party's leader?
The concerns were, and remember by this time there was a police investigation underway, so I also had to be careful that I was not doing anything to step on the toes of a police investigation. The police investigation started around, if memory serves me correctly, the spring of 2021. So by this time that these concerns were being raised, the police were looking into the SNP finances.
People quit because of concerns over finances. And then you told the party's ruling committee in March, there is no reason for people to be concerned. All of us need to be careful about suggesting that there is. You later then said in June 2021, money hasn't gone missing. The party then released a statement about people who...
Yeah, and then are they not going to look into it even further to deny those accusations?
Quit over finances, claiming it was part of an ongoing dirty tricks campaign.
There was at that point
and like
a lot of
conspiracy
politics.
theories.
Again, until probably early 2023, there was no suggestion that what was being looked into in terms of the finances was potential embezzlement. The issue that was being looked into was whether the £600,000 that had been raised to fund a second independence referendum had been used for election campaigning. That's what my comments were about, that the party's underlying financial health was good and strong, and it was. And people were raising concerns in that context. The idea that I tried to stop them is not true. There was no occasion that somebody came to me and said, we're concerned that somebody is embezzling money from the SNP. And there was nothing ever in the accounts. If qualified auditors weren't able to see that when they approved the accounts, I'm not sure how I or the National Treasurer should have been able to see that. And yes, there are questions that you're asking me legitimately about how the party's finances were managed and the discussions around that. But none of that, absolutely none of that, explains or makes other people responsible for the fact that one man committed a crime.
It doesn't excuse his crimes, but there was a pattern that when repeatedly people were asking questions of you and the party, pushing for more transparency about how money was being spent, and they didn't get it.
I don't...
Do you wish you'd done it differently?
No, I don't accept that's true. Nobody, and this is where it has been made to sound like something it's not. This was not concerns about embezzlement of funds. This was concerns about we'd raise money for an independence referendum, and was it being used for election campaigning?
When did you begin to suspect that there had been wrongdoing?
Early in 2023, around about the spring, I think, of 2023, it became clear that some people who were being interviewed by the police were being asked not just about this issue of, referendum funding used for election campaigns, but there were questions being asked about the purchase of individual items.
At that point, did you discuss or confront your former husband about what had been going on?
When I found out about the camper van in early 2023, I asked him why on earth he'd bought a camper van. And the explanation I got then was that he'd bought it in advance of the 2021 election. The explanation was that because we still were under COVID restrictions and he didn't know the extent of the COVID restrictions that would still be in place during the campaign, he'd thought a camper van, would help get key communicators around the country if we weren't able to stay in hotels or whatever.
At what point did he admit to you that he had been breaking the law?
He's never. He told me sometime last week, the week before, Monday, that he was going to plead guilty. But he has never really. I've not been at home. I haven't seen him for, I haven't seen him from the point he told me he was going to plead guilty until.
It's a motorhome, the campaign in Scotland, of course, the SNP. Just obviously Scotland has the broad Highlands and stuff, but it's not as though you're going to another continent or something in your motorhome. I'm not sure how believable that one is either. Graham. No going out in the camper van, Nicola. Grounded.
He pled guilty on Monday because I wasn't able to, just emotionally wasn't able to deal with that. So he's never sat down and given me his account. Now, presumably, I will hear his account from the court at some point, but he's never given me an explanation.
Have you asked him for one?
Yeah, but he's never given it to me.
What does he say?
It's for him to speak for himself.
But are you sorry that during the time you were in charge?
Because he's a liar, that he's dishonest, and he's a thief as well. Could that be it?
You didn't ask more questions about what was going on.
I am deeply sorry this has happened. But Peter went to, as we now know, great lengths to cover his tracks. For my own sake, but for the sake of people out there, a lot of women who end up finding themselves blamed for the actions of the men in their lives, I'm not going to contribute to that kind of sense that I am responsible for somebody else's crimes. I will take responsibility for the things I do, the decisions I make. I'm sitting here with you right now, answering questions because I believe strongly in that accountability. But I am not responsible for the crimes that my former husband committed, and I'm not going to apologise for somebody else's crimes.
But do you think you bear no responsibility for one of the biggest political scandals that took place on your watch as leader of that party? That's a different thing to saying you're responsible for his crimes.
No, but it's not, because he perpetrated a crime on the SNP. By definition, that included me as the party leader.
Did she say perpetrated?
He misled, he deceived. He's serving and will be serving a sentence for a crime he committed. I'm out here feeling as if I'm serving a sentence for a crime I did not commit.
One of the things there's been a lot of discussion of this week was your decision to say no comment during hours of that police interview. You've been accused of doing that in the way that shows that you were trying to cover something up. But can you explain to people why you did that?
When I found myself arrested and being interviewed by the police, I was in a state of almost complete collapse. I was terrified, I was bewildered, I was in a state of high stress and anxiety. I instructed a lawyer, a very experienced lawyer, who told me that he was going to advise me to do the same as he advises every client in that situation, is to not answer the questions then in such a state of stress. In the aftermath of that interview, I prepared a very detailed written document answering the questions that had been put to me that was sent by my lawyer to both the Crown Office and the police in the summer of 2023. I heard nothing more. So the idea that I did not fully cooperate with the police is not true.
Should donors to the SNP...
Do you think this is pretty softball from Laura Kussenberg so far? Now remember, Kussenberg is a Tory's Tory, and of course rejects the idea of Scottish independence as well. So do you think that she's been surprisingly soft, considering the fact that, there would be an opportunity here for her to press Sturgeon on a lot of her answers? I've just noticed that she's moving on to the next question in a lot of instances, instead of trying to actually press like further and deeper, because there have been, should we say, varying amounts of believability from some of the responses that she's given? Or is she just stewing away there and trying to drum up another question that she thinks is somewhat intelligent?
Whose money was spent criminally get their money back, and would you contribute to that in some way?
What do you mean, would I contribute to that in some way?
Well, you still have the asset of your marital home.
Also
My
now
marital
about-
home wasn't bought by SM. There will now be, I would imagine, a legal process to recover the money from Peter that he embezzled from the SNP.
This, the Jaguar, the motorhome, the jewellery. And Bully's special prize.
So that will be a legal process. I am not guilty of that embezzlement, so nothing that belongs to me should be part of that. Rightly, it should not be part of that.
And are you now living your life?
Whoa. Wait a minute. Would you not feel better in the moral sense to return the gifts that you know were given to you from the embezzled funds? Would that not be a weight off your conscience? Or, every time? Or basically, like you just described, are you going to cling on to them until a court or something says that you have to give them back? Because that's what it sounds like to me from that statement. And what you'd want to continue wearing that jewellery, knowing where it came from. You'd have that association, not the normal sentiments that come with a gift of such extravagance. Every time, you see the Jaguar or the motorhome, you're going to be reminded of them. You can't drive, I think. You said that earlier on in the interview, or you don't drive. So what are you going to do with a motorhome and a £90,000 Jaguar?
Differently.
Very. And that's probably all I'm going to tell you.
And you've been open before too about...
And of course, yes, Andy Carter, nice to see her. She's very fond of the pepper grinder as well. Nice to see Plants McGee and JK, as well as Peasants Revolt, joining us recently in chat solidarity. I just want to skip back a moment there, because I'm not sure if that was laughter or being on the verge of crying from Nicola
So
Sturgeon.
that will be a legal process. I am not guilty of that embezzlement, so nothing that belongs to me should be part of that. Rightly, it should not be part of that.
And are you now living your life differently?
Very. And that's probably all I'm going to tell you.
And you've been open before too about your sexuality,
that
I'm
you're
not-
living
I'm
your
not-
life?
Okay. Okay. Have you run off with another woman? I think she's indirectly asking there, and I still can't decide if that was like laughter or being on the verge of tears when she asked that question. Of course, you're not going to make judgment about Nicola Sturgeon because of her sexuality. That'd be the dregs of journalism. But what's this about?
Life differently?
I mean, tempting though it is to grab the headlines of this interview with a personal revelation of that nature. No, I'm not in a new relationship. I am...
And again, award-winning journalism here. So are you knocking boots with anyone new?
managing to live a different phase of life in a way that I am starting to find some peace and happiness. It's been a bit blown apart in the last week, but I am happier, or getting to the point where I feel happier.
And just finally, listening to you today.
What's going to be your next question? Oh, yeah, I bet you're spending a lot more on batteries, aren't you, Nicola?
You've been very open about how hard this has been, and you've called it a trauma. But you also sound very defiant about your role in it all.
I didn't sit here meaning to be defiant, but I do feel really strongly that that's not right. That I'm a politician of many years standing. I should be held to account for the things I did and decisions I took, and you've done some of that today, and I've tried my best to explain the reality around these things. But I guess I do feel a little bit defiant. I've got a long road ahead of me in coming to terms with this, and
Do you think she's a top? Is she a top or a top or a bottom?
trying to, heal the wounds that my ex-husband has inflicted on me, repair the damage he's done. And I'm probably in a very early stage of that. But I'm also determined. I think the word I would use about myself more than defiant is determined. I'm determined that this doesn't wreck my life. I'm determined that it doesn't stop me going on to do the things I want to do.
It's pretty devastating, Nicola. You're going to have to pretty much come clean on that one. Yeah, you stood down as leader, of course, but as far as your career and reputation goes, this would be extraordinarily detrimental and could perhaps be career-defining as well, so I wouldn't be too optimistic about coming out of this one clean. Previous recent comments aside, of course.
That it doesn't stop me trying to
keep
find
it clean.
a bit of happiness in the next phase of my life. So if there is a bit of, to use your word defiance, my word determination, then it's better than lying in a crumpled heap, because there are times this week where it wouldn't have taken much for me to fall.
Are you sure you don't? Are you sure you don't lie in a crumpled heap? Then it all goes black and white, and then fucking With or Without You by U2 comes on, and you just cry and you cry. Has that not happened yet, Nicola? I would hedge my bets that it has.
Over into that crumpled heap, and I'm determined not to do it.
You have run around the place screaming bastard, bastard. Even let's believe every word that you've just said. Surely you trashed the place up shouting bastard, bastard, men, they're all bastards, this kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, you must be absolutely livid to find out that this has been done to you by your husband. So what do we expect you to sort of to think? We expected to think that you just sort of went, oh, okay, let's get on with life. I think there's a lot that she's not disclosing in response to that question, but I think that's just about it.
Nicola Sturgeon, thank you so much for giving us your time today.
Thank you.
It is. That was another, yes, sensational scoop from Laura I Do Politics Kussenberg there. But what do you think, people? How convinced are you by that response from former leader of the SNP, Nicola Sturgeon? I don't buy all of that. I have to be honest. I think I've stated some of my reasons as we went through. But the more we go over this with a fine-tooth comb, we'll see what else comes up. Not noticing a motorhome, this kind of thing. Yeah. Shithousery, good question. Also, there's the question, of course, of whether this, I should say, will affect SNP polling. Of course, it's John Swinney at the moment. With Sturgeon pretty much taking the party as far as she could. Yes, Andy, and that will pretty much be it. That, yeah, that is how her career will be described henceforth, I guess. There'll always be that adage, that footnote, if you will, or more than a footnote, more significant, when announced on television. Yeah, former SNP, whose husband, of course, was well, remains to be sentenced, but of course will be found guilty, having pled guilty. Nearly went off on a side tangent there, because court business and, stuff always reminds me of other things. But I won't get distracted because we have a lot more coming up on stream. If you're watching back later, let us know if you were convinced by Sturgeon in the comments. For now, we need to move on to hot seats on the latest from Makerfield. Let's take it away. Sing along, people. I don't think Herbie's much of a fan of disco. He always runs out of the room when hot seat starts. It's the battle of the earworms, I guess, on my left eye. Right, so what's hot in Makerfield? Of course, it's been all over social media for the last couple of days. I can't quite believe it myself, but in other ways, I definitely can. Former leader of the Green Party, Caroline Lucas, has come out and apparently endorsed Andy Burnham, who's standing for Labour, of course. Now, this is the quote that everybody's been up in arms about. She says, referring to Andy Burnham, this was at a conference of some sort or other, Optimum or something? Is that what it's called? That doesn't matter. That's for the birds. What she said was that Andy Burnham is not the Messiah, but right now, if he recommits to PR at the earliest opportunity, if he does that, then he is our best hope of stopping the far-right government from gaining the keys to number 10 on barely a quarter of the national vote. Well, what can you say about that? I've mentioned recently other things about Caroline Lucas' statements, etc., that have sort of displayed a lack of ambition. She's been critical of how Polanski has taken the party to the left, obviously, and expanded the range of issues that they're talking about. Of course, still maintaining strong roots in green issues and environmental issues, but of course, at the top of the tree of this whole thing, including the climate crisis, is wealth inequality. It's the billionaires that are causing all of this, essentially. And I think it's appalling. You cannot endorse or support a candidate from another party whilst you're campaigning, which they are now, of course, with Sarah Wakefield, who we're going to be hearing from shortly in an interview on BBC Radio Manchester. But I just can't believe it, that she says Burnham's the best chance, because this doesn't just pertain to the Makerfield by-election. This, of course, pertains to the next general election. That's what she's referring to. So to say that she's writing off her party entirely, of course, including Zach Polanski's chances of stopping reform, which I believe can genuinely happen, I think it's an absolute affront. But of course, she only ever garnered a seat for the Green Party. She was very stubborn in keeping the party where it was on the political spectrum, and let's be honest, before Zach Polanski took over, they pretty much weaned as many votes away from the Liberal Democrats as they could, in obviously correctly convincing them that the climate crisis is an overriding issue. But that only goes so far. There are a lot of other, of course, socio-political issues that need addressing, and if you are going to be taken seriously as a party, then you need to represent a whole range of issues and speak about them as Polanski is doing, and that is why he's the current hot thing in politics, and Caroline Lucas really isn't. So unfortunately, you know, from here on out, I don't give a piss frig what Caroline Lucas thinks, because her tactics, her remit, her agenda, her ideas only got the Green Party so far. And now the Green Party can have at least realistic ambitions of becoming the main opposition in the country, if not higher ambition than that. So I think that is an absolutely appalling thing for Caroline Lucas to say. If she was talking just exclusively about the Labour Party, so it would be the Labour Party's best chance of winning the next election, that's fair comment, that's just political commentary. But when she says we, as in the country, and she includes her own party in that as well, I guess, it's just ridiculous to say that it's Andy Burnham or nothing. It's Andy Burnham or the fascists. That's the choice that Caroline Lucas is laying out on the table. Where's the ambition? There is none. I think that's absolutely really lame. It's really lame for her to say, and I'm disappointed by that. She's been arrested with Extinction Rebellion before. I used to have a certain amount of respect, of course, for Caroline Lucas. She was she verbally supported Just Stop Oil whilst I was out taking actions with JSO, so on and so forth. But this is just, yeah. And it's not even true, because of course Burnham is just the Starmer backup, the Starmer B version. There's nothing to, it would just be literally a face transplant. That's all it would be. And there have been further U-turns on things that he's said before, which I will be coming on to. Because somebody else is actually rightly and properly throwing shade at Andy Burnham, which I'll come on to in a few moments. For now, though, of course, let us know what you think about that from Caroline Lucas. Well, we know what the general vibe is around here. We're not very keen on it at all.
Very poor indeed, ladies and gentlemen.
Why have we not got the hot seats thumbnail up, Bill? Thank you. Moving on next, though. We've got an update on Robert Kenyon, who is the Reform plc.co.uk/recycled Tories, whatever, candidate, being touted as, the working class plumber. We've dragged up a few quotes from him that he's said in the past, including the fact that he says he isn't actually a plumber, that he owns a plumbing company, and that work, he says, is for plebs. He's also made some startling misogynistic comments as well. We'll come on to the response, a response to some of those comments in a moment. But first of all, when he was interviewed by the Manchester Evening News earlier this week, it seemed he wasn't even aware of the policies which the party he represents actually have They put a few simple questions to him, and he was stumped on every single one, essentially giving a sort of response that a plumber who's about to give you a dodgy estimate would do. If we're being honest. Don't know about that, don't know about that. So here it is for those of you who haven't seen it. Sorry about the audio quality here. This is how it came through on the original clip. But if Manchester Evening News are looking for some audio editors, we could certainly speak or have a conversation about leasing out some of our excellent Primates IT team here. Caesar, the one who, I don't know, kind of has a bit of a shifty look about him, seems to be somewhat of an expert. So we could have a chat about that. Apologies for the audio once again. But just check out Kenyon here. Audio issues aside, this is atrocious. This is someone who has a chance to electioneer and campaign at this point. They put the camera on him, and this is what they get.
One of Reform's proposals is to introduce the Great Repeal Bill.
Sorry?
The Great Repeal Bill.
That's the Great Repeal Bill.
Which would axe Labour's Employment Rights Act. These are things, there are things in that act that people in Makerfield would rely on. So would you support that policy?
I'd have to have a real deep look into that. It's, you know, I'd have to have a look before I give you an...
He's not got the parts on the van, sorry. Oh no, we're going to have to come back, don't know.
I'd like to give you an answer that, you know...
No, appreciate the honesty. I suppose the things that are in there, in the RA bill, that Reform wants to scrap is...
This one's an EU standard. We don't do these anymore, these EU standard size. So we're going to have to go, I don't know if the depot's still going to be open now. What time is it?
On 0 hours contracts, fire and rehire, supporting the right to sick pay from day one and a real living wage. Would you not want to claim sick pay yourself from day one if you were in that situation?
Well, I don't get sick pay anyway because I'm self-employed.
Essentially, the bill that they're referring to, of course, would remove a lot of employment rights, sick pay, this sort of thing, paid holidays. But, yeah, Kenyon doesn't really care about that because he's self-employed. That doesn't apply to him, so why should he care about these things that would affect a great number of his constituents? So what? Who cares? Vote deform.
I don't get holiday pay either. I'm self-employed. So it's...
But for those who aren't
You are aware of the concept, though, of holiday pay and sick pay, and even if you don't get them, you might have been self-employed ever since you left school. You might have never had any further education apart from, of course, your plumbing qualifications, whatnot. But again, you know what these things are that she's referring to. Do you not? Please tell me that you do.
I'd have to have a good look into it. So
absolutely fine.
Whilst you sit there and advertise Adidas for fucking free.
If Reform scrapped the Equality Act as promised, hundreds of thousands of women could lose workplace protections. How does that sit with you?
Again, I'd have to, I'd have to have a good look into it to see which protections. I wouldn't like to make a snap judgment on something so important.
That's fine. If you need to look.
Thousands of people losing potentially jobs, protection, of course, maternity and paternity pay come into these things, as well as bereavement, a whole host of employment rights. Wow. He's going to have a deep look into this one.
That's absolutely fine.
Ooh, that was shocking. That was absolutely shocking.
Very poor indeed, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, what a giveaway. Did you hear that? Eh? That's what I'm on about.
His time to shine came, and he didn't really take it at all, did he? That was terrible. And what is so tragic is that so many people are going to ignore that, because that's something that will have been put around by the local news, who, of course, have a vested interest in this hot seat by-election. They've got us to contend with at My Left Eye, where the plaudits for best coverage goes, but of course you, dear viewers, correctly know that you're in the right place. That was only a section of the interview, but perhaps it went on, and she asked, do you know what an election is? Do you know what vote? Do you know what a constituency is? Do you know what workers are? Oh, well, I'm self-employed, so that's something I'd really have to look into on that. But if you brought up immigration, I'm sure that he would be, or consider himself, a Class A Grade 1 expert on the matter. But anything else, of course, he doesn't have any personal experience with. Oh, it's gonna cost you. It's gonna cost you. Someone, apart from myself, of course, I'm sure all of you watching who can't believe that someone like this is allowed to stand in the first place, is Mariana Purkis, who appeared on a panel earlier this week alongside another Reform plc.co.uk/recycled Tories douche, and she certainly held no quarter in saying what she thought about Robert Kenyon and the Reform Party. Let's see what's happening. This is a bit better in terms of interviewing.
I must ask you about the Makerfield by-election as well, because this is now really fascinating. Massive by-election. Robert Kenyon is your candidate. Do you think he's going to win?
I'm very actually... I'm going up Saturday. This is the first time I've been up, and I'll go up Saturday. So I'll look at the data myself. But we are...
Again, sorry, people, about the lagging with the chat window. I'll keep an eye on it.
It's looking really promising for us.
Do you want him in
Makerfield.
Parliament? Do you want Robert Kenyon in Parliament?
A Reform UK Member of Parliament that can stop Andy Burnham.
Do you want him? No. Please be specific. I want people to know. Do you want him? Because I am appalled by this man. He is a man who has abused. He's a self-admitted sexist. He says women can't drive. I'd love to test him on parallel parking, by the way. Women can't drive. He says he slates British women. Please listen. He slates British women. He slates you, saying you walk around with your bellies out, pushing your prams. But if it was a European, you would take a bazooka to get me off them. He is sick. He is a sexist. He says women use abortions as a form of contraception.
George, you can defend him.
This is the person Reform will put into government and shape legislation. Okay. Do you understand what's at risk?
Look. Robert's made comments previously, and he's apologised for them, and he said, look, at the end of the day...
Just be a decent person and condemn it.
Do you know what? At the end of the day, we're the only political party that's putting real people, not politicians...
people. Don't you dare do a disservice to working-class people, suggesting that Robert... Me too. Don't you dare suggest that working-class people hold beliefs like Robert Kenyon. It's an insult to them.
He's apologised for those, and he's made those mistakes years ago. He's apologised for them. People,
and he's a changed man, is he?
You can change.
I can see we've got a lot to talk about here, so we are showing... We must do this under the law.
Well, no, the whole... Reform represent the working class thing is absolute bollocks, of course. You just have to take a 5-minute look at Nigel Farage to figure that one out. Andy Carter, thanks a lot for the gifted membership. Solidarity for that one, brother. Let's update the target. 128 now. Let's see. Oh, 128. There we go. Thanks again. Let's big up Andy Carter in the chat, please, everybody. Whilst I've got that paused, of course, you can consider these candidates, the full list there. Jay Costin, Liberal Democrats. Count Binface of the Count Binface Party will be coming on to him in a short moment. Burnham, of course. Dan Clark from the Libertarian Party. That's not the Liberal Democrats. John Dyer, who's an independent. Ed Gemmell from the Climate Party, another independent, Paul Gould, Alan, and we haven't made mention of them. Well, we have made mention of them recently, I should say. The official Monster Raving Loony Party, Alan Howling Lord Hope is their representative. So you've kind of got conflicting, perhaps vote-splitting elements there from the two comedy candidates. It'd be interesting to see Binface versus Monster Raving Loony Party. Robert Kenyon, who of course we're in the middle of slating as we speak. There's a lot here, aren't there? There's another independent, Robert Pownall, Rebecca Shepherd from Restore, who have actually started to get about 7% polling, I think, from the first time out, which is, I think, pretty interesting. If, well, let's just say I think Restore have, in Makerfield at least, more chance of taking the vote away from Reform than Andy Burnham does. But that remains to be seen. Sarah Wakefield, of course, from the Greens. Go, 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 go. Yeah, go, go, Green Party. Peter Ward from the Rejoin EU Bring In PR Party. Rebecca Winstanley from the Conservative Party. So actually, interesting to see there isn't a Lib Dem representative. There is a Libertarian Party, but you more or less have Peter Ward there, who would essentially just say the same things as a Lib Dem would do anyway. Yeah, wouldn't give the Tories too much of a chance either. Right, that's the list. Let's carry on through the interview. Yeah, sorry, is there. He was the first one. Jake Austin, Liberal Democrats. So we're talking about that's 7. Yeah. Plenty of room for the votes to be spread or split, as it were. I have to say, I'm not sure if I do have my reservations about the inclusion of Count Binface, the Monster Raving Loony Party. However comedic and fun they are. This is serious business and serious politics here on my left eye. Thank you very much.
A list of all the candidates standing in Makerfield now. The by-election, by the way, takes place on the 18th of June next month, so 19th of June will be an interesting show, won't it? There we go. There they all are. Lots of different parties involved.
Yes, Jeremy Vine there. I should, of course, have remembered that the Lib Dems were standing because they've been, well, even though in single digits, in the most recent poll that we've had as well. Sorry about that slight oversight. My left eye usually sees all, as you can see from the thumbnail. So well done, Mariana Perkis. Totally agree. Again, there are just so many zombie reform voters out there, you know, going to the booth, boats, stop the boats, despite the absolute piece of crap that they might be putting a cross next to the name of. Yeah, this is what we're up against, people. This is what we got to fight. And unlike Caroline Lucas, I think we really do have to get behind Sarah Wakefield. Just to remind you, I'm not a Green Party member, but I do support them in this seat and in general, I guess, at the moment. They are the best option, I guess, that we have on the ballot, of course. So Sarah's done her first kind of interview proper on BBC Radio Manchester. So let's see what's happening, people. I think it's Mike Sweeney who's interviewing.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Joining me today, second of our politicians, would-be politician Sarah Wakefield is the Green Party candidate for the Makerfield by-election. Sarah joins us now. So do the good manners. Sarah, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
And question I'm asking every candidate, why are you running in this Makerfield by-election?
I'm running because we are at a time in politics when there's a lot of anger and a lot of frustration, and what we need is hope and joy and better solutions for the people of Makerfield and for the country.
So, of course, the Greens won the recent by-election in Gorton and Denton. Realistically,
Yes,
how
did.
confident that you can repeat that success in Makerfield?
So it's up to the voters of Makerfield what the outcome of the election is going to be. And of course, we are going to be on the ground talking to everyone about our message of hope and great green policies that will make a difference to people's lives.
So we were just talking earlier to the Lib Dem candidate, and of course,
I bet that was riveting.
He was out and about, as I expect you've been stood metaphorically on doorsteps, finding out the issues.
No, literally, Mike.
That are important to the people of in that whole area. Yeah. So what do you feel is important to that electorate that you can address?
I think there's two big buckets of issues, aren't there? There's the big national issues where people are just feeling very frustrated, unheard, and frankly annoyed about what is going on in government. And so that is one thing that needs to be dealt with. And I think listening, understanding is a big part of that. But locally, there's a lot going on as well. There's issues of flooding in Abram, which really need to be dealt with, Abram and Platbridge. There's a greenbelt that's being built on. There's community assets that are crumbling. And people are very upset about that. And I think rightly so.
Yeah, one thing that pisses me off is whilst you see the wealth gap growing, whilst you see increasing poverty, you also see the gentrification of certain areas. There's no balance, there's no fairness. And a lot of people are upset at that because the higher and the higher market areas get an increased amount of cash and investment. And then just streets, yards away, you see abject poverty. It just doesn't add up.
The people of the constituency of Makerfield deserve to have their community assets looked after properly, and a lot of the time the national conversation is not thinking about what's going on for people on the ground.
So the other word that I'm not to hear from you yet as part of what that electorate would want is the I word, and that's immigration. So yes, you want that whole area to benefit from you being its representative. I would imagine that the immigration debate is very much a hot topic in that area, and the electorate would say, well, if we've got...
Ed, yeah, no worries for jumping over to No Justice. In fact, we'll probably be raging over there at the end of this very stream ourselves, but we'll see you over there. She and Kev or Kev normally do the full Laura Kussenberg thing. We're going to stick with this here. It's been nice to see you. Yeah, as far as Mike Sweeney goes, he used to host a digital music show in the Northwest some time ago. I'm not certain exactly when he moved over to BBC Manchester. I know that he kind of knows his stuff where music's concerned, but this is the first I've really seen him go into to politics, to be honest.
Completely unrestrained immigration. How can I share where I live with as many people as want to join me here?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there he seems to be towing a bit of a reform line with this concept of, unfiltered migration, completely open borders without checks, which of course isn't what the Green Party are suggesting, and it's ludicrous to suggest that they are.
I mean, we don't have completely unrestrained
But you
immigration.
will with the Greens.
We have.
So okay, so he does have an agenda, right? Has this agenda? You can. That was a dead giveaway, of course, by the way. But you went with the Greens. It's like ripping pure Salford accent there.
Policy which is all about making sure that people can come in and work hard
Anybody
and
can come in.
contribute.
Anybody from anywhere.
People can
That's not true. That's not true.
come in and contribute. And what we're hearing on the ground, and I think a really big challenge to those parties that are saying, oh, don't worry, we're just going to stop immigration and your lives are going to be better. Well, is it? What's their plan after that? Is it to sell the NHS to Palantir and AI companies, American AI companies? Is it to privatise our schools and our hospitals? The idea that if we just close our borders and lock down as a country, which I think would be very sad because so much of what makes this country amazing and great is our diversity. And if we lock those borders down, what are those parties going to do then for you and your family? And I think the answer is not what you think it's going to be.
It's been reported in some news outlets in the last day or so that you've called for British farming to be decolonised. Goodness gracious, what does that even mean?
Well, yeah, I know. It's been really interesting to me to see that headline because it's actually taking a very detailed and thoughtful report totally out of context. Decolonisation basically means that we're listening to marginalised voices in debates on things like food. And let me tell you, there's nothing like the food system that needs people from marginalised backgrounds to be heard, whether it's farmers from the global south who produce our bananas, our cocoa, our coffee, who are at the mercy of markets, whether it's us eating food every day. 60% of what we eat is ultra-processed, produced by big multinational companies, and rates of bowel cancer, childhood obesity are all going up because of inequality in the food system. Whether it's farmers in Kent who cannot get water to their vegetables because abstraction licenses are going to housing and planning. Those are the big issues of inequality in the food system. So when we talk about decolonialisation, I know people are getting
We've
worried.
not had colonies since I was a kid.
So it's bollocks. The papers are talking bollocks then, aren't they, Mike?
It's a long time ago.
This stuff is embedded over years and years and decades, and that's what we're talking about.
So policies that you're putting to the electorate, you do seem, and this is an observation rather than a concrete set of facts and data, you seem to have abandoned the original green and environmental issues that really focused the Green Party at that time, whereas now you seem to be fixated with gender issues, with Gaza, rather than
it's the right wing who are fixated with gender, Mike, and what you call opposing a genocide as being fixated with Gaza. That's not a very humane stance to take, is it?
And you mentioned issues with flooding in the area that you would like to represent. Has the Green Party abandoned being a Green Party and is now another left of centre politically fixated party?
Another trivial fact, the interviewer Mike Sweeney as well used to, or might still be, I'm not sure, was in a band called the Salford Jets.
It's such an interesting question. I mean, my answer would be, at the heart of everything we do, we put planet and our communities as our foundation. Those are the two groups we are really interested in. And you cannot have justice for the planet and nature without putting it hand in hand with social justice. And I would say for those issues you've mentioned, of course they're important, but I would say it's probably the media that's most interested. We have a vast range of policies across every area ready to fix this country.
But do you honestly think that...
Well, that's what I was alluding to earlier, of course. Any party that takes itself seriously has to address all of the different issues that we have. And of course, the Greens are still the top party where action against the climate crisis is concerned. They bring it up all of the time. Again, I think it's very naive of Mike Sweeney to assume that they've abandoned the green policies. An alarm, some sort of car alarm is going off nearby, and it's just stopped. Thank you. It's in the background. What was I saying there? But yeah, they've not ditched green policies to, as he says, fixate on gender issues. Of course, they're just obviously LGBTQ plus friendly and are still dealing with green issues.
A burning issue on a doorstep.
And if you'll forgive the pun, it's a non-binary choice. I think we might have a bit of a buffering issue. Just give me 1 second, people.
Makerfield.
Stand by. Yep, we're back. Sorry about that. Cracking on.
I honestly think that a burning issue on a doorstep in Makerfield would be your personal pronouns.
That's not what people are talking to me about.
I know, but...
No, it's... Well, if you know them, why have you brought it up at least 3 times now in the interview? Most of them are going to be saying they don't like what Keir Starmer's done, they don't like what the Labour Party are doing.
I will be talking to them.
The Green Party are very much focused on.
They're obviously not, though. They're obviously not. They have a position on it. It's not as though they knock on a door, someone's going to bring up an issue, they'll interrupt them and start talking about gender issues. I guess that's the way that Mike Sweeney pictures it in his head, but that's very unrealistic, Mike.
In other debates elsewhere.
I think we're only focused on it when people ask us about it.
Yes.
So if people ask me about local issues, I will be talking to them about local issues. I mean, Makerfield is an amazing constituency. It's beautiful, it's green, it's got wonderful farmland, and the connectivity to nature of many people that live in the constituency of Makerfield is really, really high. And that is something that we want to make sure we are bringing back in terms of abundance of nature.
And we are getting questions in for you, by the way, and thank you, Sarah, for being here. Tolu's just said, why should anybody worried about a reform win vote for you rather than, says Tolu, his words, hold their noses and back Labour?
That is a question for Andy Burnham to answer, not me. I think he has got to make his case to the people of the constituency of Makerfield for why he is the right person to represent them.
And the Green Party actually have policies that are different from Andy Burnham and Keir Starmer's, which are essentially the same at the moment. You don't have to go through the absolute litany of reasons not to vote reform, of course, but the Greens are the genuine alternative to all of that.
Well, one of your former MPs, Caroline Lucas, has said the fact that the party should have stood aside in this election to give Andy Burnham a clear run against Reform UK. What are your thoughts on that, V?
Well, we've already said, of course, she can cram that one.
We are a highly democratic party in the Green Party, which is one of the things I love about it. And the party of Wigan and Lee Green have chosen to have a candidate. They voted on that, and they voted for me to be the candidate. So that's what's really important.
But they voted you in as a local councillor in Manchester City Centre literally a few weeks ago. So voters in Makerfield are going to look at you and say, well, it's a carpetbagger. With all due respect to you, that, you know, do you really care about us?
Look at Andy Burnham. Look at Andy Burnham. How many shots is this now? As soon as he gets a whiff of an opportunity, he lost 2 leadership elections against Jeremy Corbyn. He was rejected a chance to stand in Gorton and Denton the first time. He had a whiff of an inroad at the leadership, and now he's finally got it. First time of the 4th time of asking a genuine shot to be on the ballot. That's double standards there, and well, like JK saying in the chat, yeah, he's definitely got an agenda here. This is disappointing to see coming from the local outlets where this channel's from. here in Manchester. But if BBC Manchester, again, are looking for more quality candidates, we'll see if some of the backroom staff have got any time free. I'm, of course, dedicated to my viewers here, I'm afraid.
If you can leave one post so quickly to go for another.
I totally understand that, but at the end of the day, I'm not the only person in this race that has very important jobs that they should be doing in politics, and I'm not the person that called this by-election. We're there to make sure that the people of Makerfield have a choice on the ballot.
And I've just got another question from Steve. Could you possibly ask the Green candidate to explain her party's drugs proposal?
It's the radio. It's not broadcast on like local cable TV, I think, but you can get a sort of live stream. They do video live feeds as well on YouTube and stuff. So that's what it is. That's the format.
As there seems to be a lot in the press about legalising drugs and selling them in shops. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great question. So the legalisation of drugs is all around taking what we call a public health first approach, and that means really looking at what the best things are to help people who are addicted to drugs. And this has got...
By letting them buy them in shops?
No.
Well, under a highly regulated system. It's not going to be... the irony is that people can access drugs now on the streets, which are unregulated. They might be cut with anything, and people are sick and unwell because of it. Having a regulated system, which is done with professionals, means that people can get the right help that they need instead of pushing them into the black market.
Can I thank you for joining us today? Sarah Wakefield is the Green Party candidate for the Makerfield by-election. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us in the studio.
Well, I don't know much about Sweeney's particular ratings. I'm not a regular listener, but I did know that Sarah Wakefield was going to be on, which is why I dug this one out for you. But yeah, that was a good response, I think, from Sarah Wakefield. But once again, in terms of interviewing, very poor indeed from Mike Sweeney, unfortunately.
Very poor indeed, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, let's move on. Herbie, thank you. It's a bit of a different kettle of fish than Gorton and Denton was, of course, but we'll wish Sarah the very best of luck. Count Binface. Has been on the attack on social media, doing what Caroline Lucas should be doing, I guess, throwing shade at Andy Burnham rather than embracing him. And yes, in this instance, pointing out that Andy Burnham promised to serve a full term as Mayor of Manchester. In response to Burnham posting, I know you know this, but don't believe everything that you read in the papers. That's not the only promise he's made that he's turned his back on, of course. There's not going to be any PR, there's not going to be any return to the European Union. He's also U-turned on trans rights recently, as well as essentially as many issues as you can do until you just Starmer version 2.0, the Starmer B-side, the beta version, whatever. You just it's going to be a carbon copy like for like swap in terms of policy. But will Binface be perhaps potentially splitting the Socialist vote with the Monster Raving Loony Party? I'd like to know your thoughts on that one. So that will just be in a few weeks' time, the 18th of June. Just checking out the chat. Thanks for all your comments, keep them coming in. Don't forget, of course, to make sure that you set to live chat instead of top chat. So that's it for updates as far as the latest hot seats in Makerfield's concerned. More to come throughout the week, potentially.
Okay!
Music's too loud. The neighbours have been complaining. You just watch your steps, sonny.
Interesting that they walked right past the live jazz quartet when they came in there. Bloody pigs. Right. On to other matters. I'm going to have to load up the remaining few clips or so in real time, just bear with. First up, we've got Pat McFadden, of course, has his own playlist with the Pat McFadden Experience on the channel if you want to check out those parody interviews with the likes of Angela Rayner, Wes Streeting, Nigel Farage. But this time, he was on the receiving end of the questions and not doing a particularly good job of explaining why Labour failed to follow up on their promises to pay young workers the same as other staff. So,
when are you going to
excuse me a moment. So here he is, Head of Department of Work and Pensions and the Duchy of Lancaster, the life and soul of the party. It's Pat McFadden.
legislate to give young people the same living wage as people over 18? You promised to do it.
We do believe people should be properly rewarded. You know the way this works. In any given year, the rate for the national minimum wage is set by the Low Pay Commission. They have to take into account all the factors in the economy, including employment and labour market.
Say that a job done by a 19-year-old, the same job done by a 23-year-old, but they get different rate of pay. That can't be right.
Well, we could, but that's
a bit rich coming from bloody Tory Trevor Phillips here. Very, very close friend of Peter Scandalson, just in case you didn't know. And Pat McFadden does indeed, as Andy points out, look quite startled already. Oh, goodness me. You're asking me all these questions here.
It's not how the minimum wage system works.
You said you would. That was in your manifesto.
Yes, it was. And in any given year, it is down to the Low Pay Commission.
No, come on. You can't start pushing this out to government, to others. You are the Secretary.
But that's the way the system
You can
works.
decide it.
I'm not starting pushing it out to anyone. We brought in the minimum wage a generation ago. I have the virtue or vice of having been around a long time, so I remember...
Don't wind back. Oh, do you remember Tony Blair when he was a thing? You can fuck off with that. You promised in your in all the pledges, yes, we know that they're not worth the paper that they're written on. But you said that you would, if they're doing the same job, they deserve the same pay.
How this was set up. We were very clear when we introduced the minimum wage that the rate would be set by the Low Pay Commission. Now, who's the Low Pay Commission? This is a body with business, trade union, academic representation.
But that's different, okay? This is about unifying the minimum wage. So you don't have a separate one for younger staff and another one for older staff. It's the commission that sets what the rate of the national minimum wage is. It should just be a matter of onboarding all of the people who are on lower pay. It's trying to describe some sort of logistical maze, this labyrinthian thing that can't be done. Oh, it's so difficult, and we've got the problems with the commission. But no, there is the money out there, tax the rich.
On it. And the reason it is a step away from government on the rate is precisely because it is good to have a body that takes into account the economic
evidence. So why did you bother to put it in your
evidence.
manifesto? Why promise you're going to do something when 2 years later you can come in
Because
and
we are
say,
giving them-
nothing to do with us?
Because we're giving them a direction of travel. And it's good to give them a direction of travel. They have a remit. They have a remit letter from the government. So they have a direction of travel. But in any given year, the precise rate of the minimum wage is recommended. Now, the government could reject the recommendation.
Yeah, of course.
We
Why
don't-
can't you? Why can't you just say to them?
Because we think this is a tried, tested, and I would say internationally
I thought
admired
we elected
model.
you guys to decide things, not to get other people to decide them.
Well, we have decided their remit. We've decided the direction of travel.
All right.
And in the internationally admired model that we...
God, direction of travel. So you kick the can down the road into commissions, and then off it goes into the long grass, and nothing ever gets done.
Pathetic.
Not a good job there from Life and Soul of the Party, Pat McFadden. Do check out our playlist for the Pat McFadden experience as well. We shared some of those on social media recently as well, last week, if you want to check them out. Yes, Herbie, thank you. Up next is a clip from Bull Politics with Zach Polanski, who interviewed Spanish Minister for Culture, Ernest Arteson. So if you want to check the whole thing out, I think that's out there somewhere. This is just a small segment, but it's definitely worth a watch. And then we're going to sort of segue into Gaza and Palestine. Of course, with Spain recently famously boycotting Eurovision because of Israel's involvements, as well as full political severances with the genocidal state. Just need to load this up.
You need to understand.
Quick moment. Check I can hear this. Okay, people.
Spain has a very strong memory of what happened in 2004 when we illegally invaded Iraq together with your Tony Blair and with Bush. Society was very much against that war. There was a huge demonstrations in the street and going around. And we managed to change the government mainly because of that illegal war of aggression. And our troops were removed from Iraq at that time. So I'm saying that because there's a very strong memory of Spanish society that we were already once trapped into an illegal war of aggression, and we are not going to go down that path again. So that's why, I mean, the Spanish society is very strongly against this kind of wars of aggression that is happening in Iran. I'm very proud that we have taken as a government a very strong stance. And yes, indeed, we have also decided not to allow the US to use the bases. They have 2 bases in southern Spain for the illegal attacks. Of course, this has created diplomatic troubles with the current administration, but I'm very proud that we're standing on the side of international law and the UN system. And it's the same a bit with Palestine. I mean, what we are defending in Palestine is international law, and we are very strongly saying that what is going on in Palestine is completely unacceptable, that there's a genocide going on. I mean, we are really taking a position, which I know at the moment is followed massively in the world, but I'm very proud of what we're doing at the international level, really, yeah.
And how are Spanish media taking this? Because in the UK, the thought to me that if we had denied Donald Trump access to our military, the media would have just gone wild. How are you dealing with the Spanish media, who I presume are owned by similar billionaires to the UK media?
Yeah. Well, of course, we are massively attacked for that, for certain media and right-wing media, also in our country. But also, look, it's very straightforward. The agreements that we have with the US, they very basically state that the bases can be used only for missions that are covered under international law or UN. Otherwise, they need to ask specifically permission to Spain. So that's why we are able to deny that. And well, of course, that has created lots of tensions, and Donald Trump has threatened with new tariff threats and things like that. I have to tell you also very honestly, so far, nothing has really happened. And on the other hand, I think that what has happened in Europe is that Spain has taken that position, and then other countries that were more reluctant to take that position are now following. So more and more, I think that we have opened the door for other European countries to start saying no. Yeah. And at a certain moment with Donald Trump, we know that the only way it works is to say no. All these appeasement strategies that we have seen in the last months, they are a complete failure. It doesn't work. At a certain moment, we need to stand up and defend international law. You need to...
Yeah, someone's got to be the first to do that. Someone's got to break the mold. And where bullies are concerned, they don't like it when you step up to them, whether it's Donald Trump and or Israel. So well done. Yeah, well said there. You can check out the full interview on Zach Belansky's All Politics if you want to see a bit more of him in conversation with Ernest Artisan there. Which brings us on to what's going to be a bit of an update on the Filton trial. It's now the Filton 4. It started as 24. There have been multiple trials and retrials since the original action at Elbit Systems. And this is from Defend Our Juries, who once again covered quite a bit of here on the channel. So it's pretty much an update of where we're up to, and as you can see there on your screens, June the 12th is a pretty important date on time, 1 p.m. at Woolwich Crown Court. So hopefully there's going to be a lot of support for the defendants there. Let's see this from Defend Our Juries.
What is terrorist connection sentencing? It's a scandal. A stitch-up between politicians and the Israeli arms industry. The UK government is colluding with Israel to imprison its own citizens. 4 young people could soon be sentenced as terrorists, even though 2 separate juries did not convict them on any terrorism charge. The Filton 4 were convicted of criminal damage after dismantling weapons of genocide in an Israeli factory on UK soil. One of the 4, Sam Corner, was also found to have caused grievous bodily harm without intent. 2 separate juries in 2 separate trials found that nobody from the group had called for violence. They were there to save lives. The first jury decided not to convict any defendant on any charge laid before them. Prosecutors didn't like this, so they called for a retrial. Jurors have an absolute right to acquit a defendant according to their conscience, irrespective of a judge's direction. And they did, finding 2 of the 6 defendants not guilty on any charge. But not before Judge Johnson had a dozen people arrested outside the court while holding signs with this legal principle written on them, including Trudy Warner, founding member of Defend Our Juries. Judge Johnson even tried to have defence barrister Rajiv Menon prosecuted for mentioning the principle in his closing statement. This was a historic first, but thankfully Judge Johnson failed. No Filton defendant has ever been charged with or convicted of a terrorism offence, so how can they be sentenced as terrorists? Judge Johnson decided their intention was to influence the government of Israel. Could it be due to pressure from the Home Office, who were desperate for a conviction? Or
Just to interrupt quickly, calling for an end to a genocide, they tried to say, is it counts as trying to influence the government of Israel. Quite pathetic. Quite pathetic from the prosecutors.
could it be pressure from the Israel lobby, who met with ministers in secrecy? Whatever the reason, it is unjust, and it had been kept secret from the jury. Now, the Filton 4 could face years in prison despite already spending over a year on remand awaiting trial. No early release unless they rescind their belief that Israel is committing genocide. Up to 15 years on licence, including reporting any tech and relationships to police. Join us on June 12th to oppose terrorist connection sentencing. Saving lives is not terrorism. Go to wedonotcomply.org.
It's an absolute sham of a trial, really. So, yeah, there are the details if you want to find out more. Really is draconian stuff here from the courts, and of course, also at the Defend Our Juries protests themselves, where many placard holders, thousands now, have been arrested. So that's the latest on the Filton trial. We'll keep you up to speed with that. And that does bring us on to matters with Palestine and Gaza. Getting into things a bit deeper, but unfortunately a bit darker now, looking into a few more details. I've got a couple of videos here from the excellent Double Down News. The first one is a more general look at someone who I'm sure you're familiar with already, Ben-Gvir. The Israeli politician, and this is the kind of scumbag that people like Pal Action and other organisations are protesting against. Now, when you talk about war criminals, when you talk about these psychopathic Zionists, this guy is right up there with the very worst of them, as you're going to see in this excellent report here from Double Down News. And then we're going to go on to something else after that. But yeah, again, there's a link in the description. If you want to check out more from Double Down News, I'll just load this up.
Ben-Gvir.
And it's safe to say that this guy belongs behind bars. I'm almost tempted to say possibly worse as well. So these are the kind of fascists that you're up against with Israel.
Of Jewish power, previously convicted in Israel of incitement to racism and supporting a terrorist organization. Ben-Gvir lives in an illegal settlement in Hebron. Ben-Gvir's mentor, Rabbi Meir Kahane, established the Kach movement.
This is our country, it is not theirs. I want the Arabs out.
They must go. He was committed to the use of specifically Jewish violence to effect such changes.
If I were the Minister of Defense, there wouldn't be one Arab left here.
Are you encouraging your people to go out on the streets and to attack Arabs as has happened in...
I call upon the Jews to do anything imaginable and anything possible which will encourage the Arabs to get out of this country.
Does that mean attacking?
Anything possible. I want them out alive, and if not alive, dead.
Kahane's views were so extreme that the US classified Kach as a terrorist organization in 1997. And Kahane was the inspiration for Baruch Goldstein, another settler from the Hebron settlements who murdered over 20 innocent Palestinians in cold blood.
Goldstein's portrait still hangs in Hebron, on the wall of Itamar Ben-Gvir.
שהבן שלך בא ושואל אותך, מי זה אבא? מי זה האיש הזה שם בתמונה? שהוא צדיק, אני אומר שהוא גיבור, אני אומר...
In 1993, Benjamin Netanyahu became leader of Likud. As Likud leader, Benjamin Netanyahu demonized the then Israeli Prime Minister and Labour Party leader Yitzhak Rabin for signing the Oslo Peace Accords. In 1995, Ben-Gvir, the Minister for National Security responsible for the police today, appeared on television brandishing an ornament stolen from Rabin's car and proudly declared, "We got to his car, we'll get to him too."
סמל הוא סמל, ומסמל שכמו שאנחנו הגענו לסמל הזה, אנחנו יכולים להגיע לרבין. כאשר ראש הממשלה עושה דברים כאלה חמורים, אני חושב שבהחלט אפשר לעשות מעשים חמורים נגדו.
A few weeks later, Rabin was assassinated. The death of Rabin led to the death of the peace process. In 1996, Benjamin Netanyahu became Israeli Prime Minister for the first time. And what he set about doing was the creation of a whole new generation of far-right extremist political leaders in Israel. Despite constant scandals, Netanyahu has been re-elected Prime Minister on 6 occasions. Given the importance of global conversations,
yeah, we saw as well those awful shots recently of Ben-Gvir intimidating, harassing the captives from the flotilla. The most recent flotilla were 45, I think it was. People were illegally kidnapped in international waters. He really is the worst of the worst. And it's clear to see why under such influence as well. I do have to warn you now, people, going to go on to the second Double Down News clip here. Comes with a strong, very strong content warning. In fact, rarely do this on streams, but I've had to put it onto the actual video itself, because you're going to hear some harrowing testimony from one of the people who was kidnapped, an Australian member of the flotilla. I've not actually seen this, but I know from a quote that was sort of at the top of the clip, the strength of the content. So just to let you know, this is going to be pretty heavy stuff. And you're going to hear the kind of treatment that people
200
were subjected to on the flotilla. Those very, very brave people, of course, including British citizens, and we didn't hear a word, not even a mention from our government. And where was the mainstream press when British people were kidnapped by a foreign nation, assaulted, and far worse, as you're about to hear from Juliette Lamont here, one of the Gaza volunteers.
70 nautical miles from Gaza. So we were intercepted in international waters. But at the time, because we saw, what looked like to be sort of 17-year-olds in balaclavas in broad daylight, it wasn't quite as scary initially. And they drove the boat like they stole it, literally. I think maybe it was a 35-minute journey that was really fast with guns in our faces. And then we arrived at the, monumental, monstrous prison ship that a lot of people have talked about. And then that was the threshold of it becoming, a very, very frightening, fearing for your life situation. They knew my name when they dragged me onto the deck. I was cable tied, my ankles were shackled. They put so much water under my face, I had no ability to move. And every time I tried to get away from the water to stop sort of gurgling and drowning, they'd slap me again, stand on the back of my legs. I thought that was my number was up, and I'd only been on that boat for about 20 minutes. I thought that I was going to drown. And that was the welcome to Israel, because that's exactly what they said when I got on the boat. Welcome to Israel. You're going to really enjoy this, is what they said. Other bodies would be thrown onto me. It was sort of like sardined, and you could feel other people kind of, in different, different levels of anguish, lots of screams, lots of thudding. Then I was dragged sort of along a corridor. They looked at my passport. They recognised that I'd been there before, and they told me that he had an American accent, and he said, "I want to kill someone today, and it potentially might be you." And then I was dragged towards what we sort of ended up calling a torture tunnel. It's a shipping container that kind of had an entrance to it where you could vaguely see the silhouette of 5 soldiers inside, and I was pushed inside that space. I was slapped and kicked. I was sexually assaulted. They threw me on the ground. They broke my coccyx, kicked me in the back. And the strangest thing, and the thing that I remember the most is not the blows, and it was not the sort of like the internal sexual assault. It was this really, really big man who was pulling at my hair like a child, like a boy would in a playground, doing it to a girl that he didn't really understand. It was it was really infantile and puerile.
Juliette, I apologise for being intrusive here, but when you say that you were sexually assaulted, it's important this. What exactly did they do?
So they wrenched my trousers and my underwear down, and it felt like that it was inserted with a hand. It wasn't a gun. I found out later that other people had guns inserted inside them. I don't think that it was a penis, but there was so much going on. But I was vaginally raped by one of the male soldiers. As I was, you basically, your head's down. They're putting you in a stress position, so your head's down, and your sort of posterior is very sort of available to be, dealt with, and your hands are behind your back, and your ankles are shackled. So, it's while you're being sort of jostled, hit, sworn at in the dark. I mean, it's a really discombobulating, horrific experience. then a door was opened and I was thrown out into an open kind of area where I could see probably maybe about 60 people on the deck of that boat. And my daughter, Isla, who was 25, ran up to me. My mouth was bleeding. They'd punched me in the face. And yeah, I was just sort of surrounded by love. And I was just really, it was really nice to see that my daughter was all right. And we talked about, how much violence.
Oh, God. Very strong testimony there from Juliette Lamont. Yeah, so amazing and coherent on describing the atrocities done. So you're quite correct there, Graham. A very brave lady stepping forward to give her account of these events, and where are international governments once again? I'm not certain. I think that was perhaps originally on Australian media, but that was being shared around by Double Down News earlier on, and so many cases as well. You heard Juliette mention up to 60 people, and that is just from what she saw as well. They are monsters. There's no two bones about it. These people, just absolute atrocious fascists of the worst order. So sorry to get a bit strong on stream, but the truth has to be heard, and hopefully justice will be done. Thank you very much for all of your support for Palestine as well, in general, in the chat, as we were watching that clip as well. Viva Viva Palestina, as always. JK, yeah, Starmer supports this behaviour. He does, without qualification. Those are his words. Yes, peasants' revolts I've seen a lot worse on other platforms as well, that I would never share on a stream. Yeah, I think that kind of description is about as strong as we're prepared to go on the channel. But seeing clips, pictures, I've read testimony far more severe, which I won't even begin to describe on stream. Yeah, of course. Let's do our best to stay within the TNCs and all that business. Another comedy clip now. I think we need a bit of a change of mood, if that's okay with everybody. From one fascist, or fascists in terms of Zionist Israel, to another, but in the parody form. And this time, he's pretty upset at what's taking Keir Starmer so long to resign. It is, of course, Hitler Rants Parodies.
Und was ist los? Woher kommt die Schießerei? Mein Führer, darf ich Ihnen zum Geburtstag gratulieren? Wenn er sich ohne Befehl entfernt hat, ist das Fahnenflucht. Verrat! Mein Führer, wir haben noch keine Meldung. Ich spreche gerade mit Koller. Koller, geben Sie mir Koller. Koller.
My dad was a toolmaker.
Sie wissen, dass Berlin unter Artilleriefeuer liegt.
I do want to fight the next election. Obviously, I recognise that after the local election results, the elections in Wales and Scotland as well, that the first task is obviously turning things around. No, we've got a lot of work to do, and I was addressing Labour Party staff actually this morning. Reminding them and reminding the whole team really that we were elected into office by millions of people to bring about change in this country. That's our responsibility. There's been a lot of activity which hasn't been as focused in my view as it should have been, and I remind myself every day that I was elected into office to serve the people. I've said I don't know how many times that I'm not going to walk away. I feel very strongly that I must serve the people who voted me into office. Do I recognise that we've got to turn things around after those election results? Yes, of course. And obviously a lot of people in the Labour Party have been talking about what has to happen next. I recognise that. But it is really important, I think, for me at least, to remind myself, why am I in politics? I came in to serve my country. That's how we won the election. My job is to serve and to carry out that responsibility, and that's what I'll do. But I'm not going to do that. My responsibility is to serve the people who voted us into office, serve my country, to remind people that we have achieved already in terms of stabilising the economy, investing in the NHS so that waiting lists are coming down. All those things make a material difference to people's lives, but there's a lot more to do, and obviously after the local election results and results in Scotland and Wales, we need to show we can turn things around.
Die Korruption in unserem Staat möglich gemacht, nur zu lernen, wie man besser Gabel hält.
I had my doubters when I took on the Labour Party. I had my doubters who said we couldn't change this party and make it capable of winning an election. And I proved them wrong. And when we did that, I had my doubters who said, you can't lead us to a general election victory after the loss in 2019. It was so bad. It's not possible. And I proved them wrong. I'm going to prove them wrong again.
Mit ihrem eigenen Blut wird sie bezahlen. Sie wird es saufen in ihrem eigenen Blut.
I'm not going to walk away and plunge the country into chaos.
Man müsste die ganze Luftwaffenführung sofort aufhängen.
My dad was an apprentice. He went to night school. He was a toolmaker, a skilled toolmaker.
Das ist unerhört, unerhört. Der Russe steht 12 Kilometer vom Stadtkern. Und ich erfahre das sozusagen auf Nachfrage.
Mein Führer, vielleicht handelt es sich ja wirklich um Fernfeuer. Sie erwähnten eine Eisenbahnbrücke über die Oder.
Ach, Unsinn!
Very good from Rant's parodies. Yes, Keith's days are indeed numbered. Sorry about that. Did enjoy that one. A shout out to all the members once again on the channel now. Andy, great to see your solidarity. We'll catch you soon, brother. Whilst we're thanking all of the marvellous members on the channel, I'm just going to sort out a raid. Let's see if Kevin Helena are still alive. I believe they are. Yes, and as mentioned before, they'll be going into a further deep dive of Laura Kussenberg. At least that's a Sunday tradition, I believe. Yes, that's all. lined up and ready to go. Thank you very much for all of your support. Yeah, just a reminder, do chuck us some hype points, hit thumbs up on this stream. If you watch back later on, there's super thanks and the Buy Me a Coffee page as well. Lots of ways to support the channel. We appreciate them wherever they come from. Do hit the notification bell, of course, so that you don't miss out on any future streams. I'll be back with more brews at 10 at the week, as we just round things off here this evening.
And I'm getting quite near the end now of this analysis.
So we'll see things out with a second visit to the Fondue Lounge and have a second portion now. I will say thank you very much again to Herbie Ranger and the Supersonics, who'll be back with us next week. Thank you, fellas. Catch you next time. Go to the lounge, people.
It's a quality item, ladies and gentlemen.
Alright, we'll see what trouble Keith and the gang can get into next week. But as far as this stream goes, thank you very much for your attendance. Thanks for all of your comments in the chat as well as we've gone through. You've been fantastic. I've been your humble host, Lefty. This has been the Sunday live stream on My Left Eye. Free Palestine, Lebanon, Sudan and Yemen. Don't watch the news. Be the news. Don't let the bastards grind you down. My Left Eye, I'll be seeing you soon. Good night.
It's what Hitler and Goering did, and it is textbook. And if you think the next time it happens, we're gonna recognize it because they're wearing scary uniforms, you're out of your damn